As you know, these expert sharing sessions, we have alumni, we have current students in batch 3, and then we also have future students who have already enrolled for batch 4, right? And I want to specifically address some of you who will be joining in batch 4, because I read your feedback, and I think what I would like to highlight here is it's completely normal for you not to understand anything that Satirius said last night and anything that Matteo says tonight. Most of the time, what Matteo says doesn't make any sense anyway. So, you know, it's completely normal, right? But what I want you to do is experience tonight. Like if you feel confused, if you feel overwhelmed, it's okay. What I want you to do, especially for batch 4, I want you to experience everything tonight and then go through the course and then rewatch the video at the end, and you'll see the progress that you've made over the next few months. And this is the feeling that some of the alumni and students from batch 3 are experiencing about some of these topics. You'll be able to ask really intelligent questions. You'll be able to follow some of the jargon. You'll be able to understand some of the topics that's being discussed here, right? So don't feel bad if you are overwhelmed or you don't understand anything, right? It's perfectly normal. And my suggestion would be to rewatch this video after you've gone through the course, and you'll see the difference it makes. So that's definitely an exercise that you should do. I want to stress again for everybody here that what Matteo is teaching is not part of the core curriculum. It was part of batch 1, but we've removed it for long list of reasons that we don't need to discuss. However, it's a skill, just like last night. It's a skill to round out your T-shaped marketing skill set, right? If you are going to be a online marketer, a digital marketer, what Matteo is teaching tonight are valuable skills that will make you a much more valuable digital marketing professional. It's about growth hacking, and it's about reverse engineering, like some of the top campaigns. So in the future, don't recreate campaigns from scratch if you can. Learn from your competitors. You've learned this over the past few weeks, right? For batch 3, and for batch 1 and batch 2, you've definitely gone through this where, you know, you do competitive research, you do keyword research, you do all this research so that you don't start from scratch. Now, the tips and tricks that Matteo is giving you, some of it will be common sense, some of it will be truly new to you. Whatever it is, these are additional skills that you should add to your tool belt to make you a much more complete T-shaped marketer. Having said that, I don't need to introduce Matteo. Matteo, the floor is yours. Please take over.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see so many familiar faces from all walk of life and all seasons. So yeah, pretty good. So guys, I would love to for the session to be as interactive as possible, and just for you to ask questions and for us to go together on not just the few examples that I'm going to share today, but also ones that you are curious about, so that we can basically very superficially and very quickly adopt what we're gonna see tonight to other cases, right? So I'm gonna stop from time to time to look at the question on Slido, and then we're gonna have also a final Q&A sessions where you can ask everything you want. Good. So let me see how to do this. And as usual, Julian, feel free to interrupt me as well if I'm not looking at the chat on Zoom or Razio or whoever. I'll then address the question. Cool, guys. So topic of today, a lot of buzzwords that we use to just to make it a bit fancier, but basically the substance of what I would like to share with you is a high level approach on how to reverse engineers what other pretty much every company in the world, not necessarily in Indonesia, is doing from a digital marketing perspective, and learn from them, right? This is a topic that is pretty close to my my heart, so to speak. It's something that I've done consistently throughout my career, both at the beginning when I was trying, I was hungry and thirsty to learn as much as possible, and then when I advance in more senior roles to from a strategic perspective. So this is really something that I believe helped me tremendously to become better at doing the job. So what I would like for you to take out of tonight is not specifically all the little details and techniques, but know that such thing that we're gonna see tonight exists, and try to basically implement it yourself every time you're thinking about what type of strategy to implement in your current workspace. In terms of what we are going to look at, to see tonight, so three key chapters. Why basically reverse engineering, why growth hacking intelligence, what's the value of it? And then I'll share with you basically some of the best examples in terms of approaches and tools to use to do both quantitative approach and also a qualitative approach to growth hacking intelligence. So to start, why are we looking at this, and why is it so important? I believe. So first of all, definition, which you don't find in any vocabulary, in any dictionary. Sorry. I think we can come up with this ourselves. So what growth hacking intelligence is to deconstruct the marketing strategies that are implemented by any company, and doing that by leveraging public information and third-party tools. So to learn from them and then to apply in your own current workspace. For whom is that information and an exercise valuable? For a variety of basically people, right? So most of you fall into the first category, which is future marketing specialist. And as I mentioned just previously, how I did it myself, especially in the early years in my professional career, this is a phenomenal way to really deepen your knowledge about digital marketing and about any channel that you are basically specializing on. So that's the first thing. For the ones that are already working in marketing teams or already digital marketers, this can be very valuable for you to basically not just to sharpen your skills, but just to implement new strategies in your current company. For the few of you that are basically business owner or entrepreneurs, so this is also very, very valuable. And I've been doing this myself to the few companies that I've started at the very beginning, which is look from other comparable players. What are the marketing channels that seem to be working for them? So then when you start, you don't start from scratch and testing everything, but you already know that in other markets, some marketing channels are probably more likely to work than others. And fourth, for the few of you that are already or will be managing marketing teams and will have control on budgets. Again, this is similar to the business owner's explanation. It's quite important for you to basically have a faster way to decide basically where to allocate the budget for all of you that batch 1, 2, and 3 that went through our program. We have seen together how to allocate the budget in a quantitative way. What I'm saying here is from a high level, when you start, rather than testing everything, you already know basically where is more likely for your marketing channels to be more effective, and therefore to allocate more budget. So on to the reason why it is valuable. What we say here is stand on the shoulders of giants. So what that means is basically why wasting time and also money and marketing money in starting from zero, right? When you can leverage the experimentation, the work done by other companies, right? And that means also, especially when you're looking at companies that you know, or you assuming that have spent quite some money, right? And are at a certain stage, it's safe to assume that what you see in terms of marketing strategy is the result of some iteration they did over the time that cost them money, right? So rather than going through the same cycle, why not picking up from where they are right now and basically improving from that? So that's the number one reason. The second reason, and this is very, very relevant and important in a market like Indonesia, which is not yet as competitive in business-wise across the board, but especially when it comes to online marketing and to digital marketing, with other markets that are like much more mature, such as the US or even India. So by learning strategies in those more competitive markets, right? Chances are that the sophistication of those players is higher than what you find locally for example, to your competitors, right? So you could really do this know-how arbitrage by implementing those global knowledge and implementing it locally, right? Obviously, there is a lot of adaptation in most of the time. Sometimes there's little adaptation, sometimes a lot of adaptation to the local market, but the whole concept remains. If you pick a strategy for players that have competed fiercely in their domestic market, chances are that they're doing something which is quite sophisticated that you could leverage for your own market and your own company. Third, so this is related to the second reason that I just mentioned. I found it very, very useful and motivating, both as an individual marketer, but also as a as a manager of teams, right? To benchmark your own performance and your own strategies, your own KPIs and the ones of your team, not just with what you see around in the market, but basically globally, right? And having this, always have this look at what the best players, not locally but globally, are doing, indirectly really push you to improve more and more. Again, more both individually and as a company. So that's a very good factors to always try to remember. And the fourth thing, last but definitely not least. This is one of the beauty of digital marketing, at least for me, which is that you can actually reverse engineer almost every company's digital marketing strategies if you know how to do it and also which tools to use. And most of that information and tools basically are available for free or for basically not much, right? So you don't need to pay crazy money to get some super edgy software in order to do that. Most of this can be done for free. And especially what I'm going to show you today, right? This is 100% free, right? So it's something you can do just right now. Good. So let me just have a quick look. Okay, no question. Good. So first of all, let's start with the quantitative approach to it. And let's start by basically introducing, for me, the best tool to have basically a high level view of the marketing mix of different companies, which is SimilarWeb. So you can click on it and browse around SimilarWeb.com. So what is SimilarWeb, right? So SimilarWeb 101. So is from my, but not just mine, from most experts and also most investors' view, the most reliable tool to estimate any website metrics. And this is very important, website and not apps, right? So website means both desktop and mobile traffic, but not apps, because SimilarWeb also provide estimates on app data, but it's not as good and as accurate. So another player, which is called App Annie, that you see here, is basically recommended for measuring app metrics. The problem about App Annie is that The free version just gives you very little information, whereas similar web, the free version gives you quite enough information. In terms of, if you are curious, and you should be curious to, to understand more about how does similar web works, right? So in general, every tool that you use, you should get to a level where you really try to understand why does it work the way it works. So for the ones of you that last week went through, that past 2 weeks into SEO, I highly recommend you to research, for example, how does Ahref gets their data, right? Because by focusing on that, that will help you to understand better the whole SEO discipline. So for every tools that you use in general, try to spend some time in truly understanding how they work. So I link here in the deck that I will share about the similar web data methodology. Basically, how do they get those data, right? So I'm not gonna spend too much time on that, but this is an interesting reading for you. As I mentioned, free version already provides very valuable information. The paid version, and this is a rule for a norm for most of those intelligence tools, the paid version is quite expensive. So actually, I don't think I saw it, but never directly or indirectly work with the paid version, because it's very expensive. App Annie, as I mentioned, for app metrics is more reliable. And last but not least, 2 different ways to use it. One is the Chrome extension, which is quicker to get the information you need, but it's less complete. And the second is the similar web, which is a bit slower to get all the information, but it's a bit more complete. So the Chrome extension is a simple Chrome plugin. You just click on it, and then you download, and then you will have it on your browser bar. So that's the little ball you see here. Good. Let me see. Okay, so similar web provide, even the free version provide a lot of reports, right? What I wanted to share with you here is to focus on the most valuable ones. And when I say the most valuable ones, personally myself, I found value only in those, basically only in those 6 and not in others. So don't go crazy. I mean, go crazy in terms of curiosity to look at all the different reports, but those 6 are the ones that you should probably focus on in terms of insights. So first report, the traffic overview. So let's look at a player that I'm sure that all of you, or almost all of you, know, which is Allodoc. So I have installed the plugin, right? So what I do is, I click on the little plugin here. And as you can see, you get immediately this information, this nice information about the site, right? So we're gonna look at one by one, but basically here you can see how fast it is if you just use the plugin to get already this information. And what I wanted to share with you is, to go through with you, is basically this information that you see here. So the first and very important is the estimated visits, monthly visits over time of the past 6 months, right? And it's very important to look both at the absolute value and also about the trends, right? So this is those 2 information are the most important for that basically view. Page per visit and bounce rates, which are more qualitative metrics, from my experience, they are, and average visit duration, they are not as reliable and also not as insightful. So absolute number of monthly visits and trends, right? If it's decreases or it's increasing, those are basically the 2 most important information about the view you have, the report you have here. A couple of key things. So when it comes to absolute traffic, if total visits is below around 100K per month, 100,000 per month, then the data becomes very, very unstable and not as reliable. So as a result of that, SimilarWeb is a great tool to use with basically with websites that have, that have a certain, a certain size when it comes to visits, right? And actually, most websites won't qualify. The second thing about the traffic trend, what you should basically, the way you should look at it is see what is the trend, right? Is it increasing steeply? Is it decreasing steeply? Is it, is it stable? And especially if it's, increasing steeply, so increasing a lot, you should basically try to investigate why is that the case, right? So is it because maybe they increase their investment in paid traffic, right? In ad channels. And as you know, so ad channel is something you can switch on and off overnight. So a lot of time when you see such big changes from week to week, from month to month, is because there's a change in terms of budget invested in ad channels, which again, by itself, if you can think about it, is a huge insight you can get in just 30 seconds with a good level of security. The second thing is they might, if you see a steep increase, it might be because the players has started some aggressive offline marketing activity, which then reflect on the especially on the direct visits that the business and the website gets. So this was the case, for example, I remember a few months ago or a couple of years ago when Tokopedia or Shopee started to aggressively advertising all around Indonesia and all around Jakarta. You could clearly see that reflected on their visits. And something else, and we will see it in a bit, especially and that's actually one of the main use we were leveraging it when I was working at iPrice, is for players that are very SEO and search driven. A big change, either a drop or increase month after month, is typically the result of the impact of some, either some algorithm changes from Google. And as you know, Google keep on tweaking and changing algorithms every day. And sometimes those tweaks are stronger than others. So it's very, very useful to see, well, how did that change of algorithm impacted my website versus the one of my competitors, right? Or because you made a revamp in terms of, especially site architecture of your site, or if you have a very successful link building campaign. So this is all reason that could justify a steep increase or decrease of traffic if the player is a very SEO driven player. And that's something that we will see in a little bit, if to spot the players that are very SEO driven. Let me see if let me go through the whole quantitative part, because I fear that if I stop at every few slides, it's gonna be we're not gonna make it before midnight probably. So second report, the traffic sources reports. So two example here. Zenium, which is a basically online cosmetics regional player, direct to consumer, so they sell directly online, and Allo Doctor, which I'm sure most of you know, that basically compete with AlloDoct, so online healthcare player, right? So to look at that split of traffic, let's look at the two player. Let's look at Allo Doctor. So same thing, you click on here. So if you scroll down, then here you see the marketing mix, right? And this is, for personally, I find this one of the most interesting, interesting type of reports, right? Because again, it can really, in just a few seconds, right, and especially with a bit of experience that will become faster and faster, you kind of understand basically what are the most important channels for that player, right? So I took a case which is very, very straightforward and obvious. Most cases are not as obvious. And when I mean obvious is, as you can see here, Allo Doctor is highly dependent on search, right? That drive 94% of their traffic. A case which is another good case, which is very, very balanced, right, is Zenium.com. With the added complex in this case, something that I wanted to, I didn't share before, is that the way SimilarWeb works, it gives you all the metrics for the whole domain, right? So in this case, for Zenium.com. Now, Zenium.com as a domain, right, is a domain that target multiple countries, right? So basically, you don't get this data only from Indonesia, but for all the countries together, right? Which can be a bit tricky for player if you're looking specifically about their strategies in Indonesia, because it's all basically mixed together the other countries which might be bigger, as you can see, here.
Matteo, quick question: is search channel included in SEM or SEO as well?
It's both. I'll show you in the next slide, because we'll see there's another report, which is the search report, where I'll share more about the difference between paid and organic. But the answer is both. So in this case, you see a much more basically balanced, a lot of social, search, direct 20%, some display ads, some referrals, and some traffic coming from email marketing. So these are two cases with very different split of traffic. So what can you get out of that? Basically, from direct, and just for everyone to be on the same page, direct traffic is, so technically, direct traffic in Google Analytics is basically when analytics cannot attribute a channel to the traffic. By default, the residual is direct, right? And direct is every time a visitor come to your site directly because he type it on the on the toolbar, or he has it bookmarked. So those are all direct traffic source. So from the percentage of direct, you cannot infer much, right? There's always a substantial percentage, right? So there's not much insight you can get out of it. When it gets interesting is when you start looking at search. So when search, as a rule of thumb, so I'm giving you here in order to get the best type of actionable insight, I'm giving you some rule of thumbs, right? So there's no rule. SimilarWeb is not saying that anywhere. I'm just telling you those numbers and those range based on my experience. So if search is substantially higher than direct traffic, okay, in a comparable basis, or if it's represent a big percentage of overall traffic, so higher than 60 or 70%, right? You can pretty safely assume that search marketing is a key marketing channel for the business. For some business like the ones you just saw from from Allo Doctor, right, that has more than 90% of traffic coming from search, you can also safely assume, but we will see in the next slide how you can be sure about it, that it's because the business relies on SEO more than Google Ads. So if more than 90% of the traffic comes from search, chances are that it's because it relies on SEO and not on Google Ads, because it will just be too expensive. That's the reason why. Social. So if it's if it's double digits, so more than 10%, assume that it's because the company invests in typically in Facebook ads, right? So Facebook and Instagram ads. Social media organic, as all of you or most of you know, nowadays account for a very small percentage of traffic. So gone are the days where you had, you know, players that could rely mostly from social media without ads to push their, you know, to push their businesses, and they are lower, and actually way lower than 5% for almost all businesses. So that means that if it's higher than 10%, assume, because here again, as for the question before, search, social here is both paid and non-paid. Okay, so if it's more than 10%, the only reason to scale, the only way to scale it more than 10% for the vast majority of cases is because you invest in social media ads, right? So that gives you a good insight. So in this case, we saw Zenium, you know, 22%. It means that probably they invest quite a bit in social media ads, which is actually the case. For email, referral, or display ads, if any of those is higher than 5%, pay special attention. What I mean by that is that it's normal that it's lower than 5%. If it's 5%, you should spend some time in trying to understand what they're doing about it. And especially if it's higher than 10%, then it's a very safe assumption to believe that there's a deliberate strategy behind those channels. And the word deliberate here is pretty important, because your goal when you're doing this you know, exercise of reverse engineering is always to try to find companies that are doing something on purpose, right? It's not just randomly they are getting a lot of traffic from search, or randomly they are getting a lot of referrals. Because if it's randomly, it means that it's difficult to replicate, right, and to implement for your site. So the best case is when you know that you spot companies that through that exercise you are able to understand that there's actually a very deliberate and actually in some cases sophisticated strategy behind the fact that Allo Doctor, as you know, 94% of the traffic from search is not a coincidence, and it's not random. There is a strong strategy behind it, and that's where you can learn, you know, as much as possible. Back to basically to the previous question that Razi was asking. So search traffic. So there's also a report on search, which is search traffic. In order to get that, you need to basically click on go to SimilarWeb and go on the basically on the website version of SimilarWeb. So the plugin, as I mentioned at the beginning, gives you faster data, but it's less complete. So you have additional data if you click on there. So let's scroll down here. And you see there's a search, search report. And that gives you the split of that 27%, the split between organic and paid. So this case is basically, in this case, as I mentioned, it's a combination of all countries. So it's a bit, you know, it's a bit tricky, right? But basically, the main so what is that if paid search, if paid search is more than 20-30% of the total search, right? In this case, 40%, is because there is a, again, deliberate paid search strategy behind it. And then you can dig deeper into understanding and try to reverse engineering the specific channel, right? So how they do things the way they do it. Because if it's just, you know, if it's 0%, obviously by definition there's no strategy behind it. If it's just, you know, in the sub 5%, probably they're just, you know, either they're just bidding on their own brand, right? Which is not a proper strategy. It's a very, you know, easy and simple thing to do, or they are, or simply just it doesn't work for them, right? And it's a big learning to know from a player, especially if you look at other countries, right? To see whether a search is a strategy in a channel that can work or not for that type of business, right? Because social media ads, as most of you know by now, it's very hard for them just not to work at all for a business, right? So chances are that you will always have some social media ads strategy because it just works targeting wise. If you know what you're doing, you can make it work somehow, right? Whereas search can be paid search can be extremely powerful and extremely profitable. but it doesn't work for all businesses, right? For example, in the case of RevoU, search and paid search is not a channel that works very well for us for the nature of our business, right? So it's very important to see whether a player is investing or not in search ads, and to reiterate, if that percentage is above 20-30%, it probably means that they have a proper search ad strategy, which by the way doesn't mean that they're doing a good job in search ads, right? But it means that probably it works for them, right? Which is by itself is a pretty big learning. So if the percentage of paid search is very low, as the case of AlloDoctor, and let me show you here. We can do this. Then we click on this. So as you can see, right, when a company is very reliant on SEO, right, like AlloDoctor, the number you would see is typically it's super skewed towards organic, right? So like 99% and just 0.5%. So basically what they're doing is they are just bidding on their own brand terms and a few other keywords, probably just for experimenting, right? So to summarize, when it comes to search, if a player has a very strong share of search, like the case of AlloDoctor here, and if that split is predominantly on organic, then you are basically 100%, well, 99% sure that SEO is their key strategic channel when it comes to basically to acquisition. And this by itself is a pretty powerful learning. Good. Search include SEO. Okay, let me go back. So fourth reports, referrals. This is an example from JDID, the e-commerce, electronics e-commerce website in Indonesia. What is good about referrals, and the best value of referrals is not much about the percentage, right, that you see here, but it's mainly about, let me put it bigger, it's mainly about the names, what you see here in terms of top referring sites. And why is it useful? Because you could spot existing partnership, right, that website has, which might not contribute that much traffic-wise or even revenue-wise, because again, it's very, very rare that referrals as a whole account for more than just a couple of percentage points, right? But what is important is that from there you can reverse engineer what some strategies that this player are doing, which again could be very strategic. So, for example, in that specific case, by looking at it from looking at it from for JD, so what we can see here is Samsung.com. So then what you do is then you click on there and you try to understand basically what is going on, and or better, what are the terms of the partnership, right? And this can be very, very interesting, because then you could replicate it, and you could replicate it if you are a JD.ID comparable, right, which is basically e-commerce selling electronics. By studying that, then you can basically replicate a similar type of strategies with not directly with Samsung, but with other players, right? So this is something that they were doing for 11/11 of probably last year, no, a couple of years ago. So again, by looking at that, right, you can, especially if you're lucky. So in most cases, you won't find super interesting type of you do, and then that becomes very very useful. Fifth, social and display ads. The fifth report. So let's see, for example, Bukalapak. And by the way, you can also search directly here on the web version, bukalapak.com. That's an example. To scroll down until the end, almost the end, and then you have basically the social, and similarly as for search, you have the total amount, right? And then split into the different social media that are driving traffic to to the site, right? So here, as a rule of thumb, as mentioned previously, if social is higher than 10%, and if you see also that Facebook is predominant among those further split here, it is almost always because of Facebook ads, right? Not because of the organic traffic that they're getting from Facebook. If YouTube is a substantial source of traffic, when you look at the split here, it's worth looking at what is the strategy adopted, right? And you could infer after some digging whether they are running, for example, ads on YouTube, or they have, for example, if it's a channel that has many subscribers, chances are that actually the traffic they get on YouTube and also the views they get on YouTube is organic, right? So they're not paying for it. Maybe they have some influencer campaign. So by looking at how important YouTube is within the social sites, you could decide to basically investigate more, especially if social as a whole is more than 4%. But it's maybe, I don't know, if it was 30% and YouTube accounted for 50%, that's absolutely a channel that you want to really understand what's the strategy behind it, right? And other rule of thumb, if anything is more than 5%, also here worth investigating what is it that they are doing. And here again, is not just, or it's not primarily to try to get the same traffic, right? Because, for example, in this case, WhatsApp web app, 16% of that 4% is what? Is less than 0.5% of total traffic. So the goal here is not to copy or replicate what Bukalapak is doing via WhatsApp web in order to get that additional 0.5% of traffic. That's not the goal. The goal should be, let's see what they do with WhatsApp, because that's something that could be interesting for us, regardless of the traffic that they bring, but just because that could be something strategic for the business, right? So that's how to look at those different sub-sources within social. When it comes to display ads, something that and again, this is not something you will find anywhere, because this is more of based on my, again, personal experience, and it's not hard science, and there are always exceptions, okay? But from my from my experience in looking at the different websites, using SimilarWeb, and also knowing the real data behind some of those sites, my personal view is that when you look at the display advertising reports, which you see here, for example, scroll down, if you see that basically the by far the biggest ad networks is Google Display Network, aka GDN, that's basically, that doesn't tell you anything, that doesn't give you much value, right? Almost everyone starts, when they start with display ads, with Google Display Network, so you don't get that much additional intelligence. And that's the case of the one championship, the mixed martial arts phenomenon, which, as you can see here, they have very low display advertising, but also within the 2%, 95% is GDN, right? Whereas look at on the other side, look at Zenium. If you see that there, let me put it actually bigger so you can see better. So if you see that the split of display advertising is quite is more fragmented, and especially if the GDN, so Google Display Network by itself, is not predominant, okay, and there are many networks, as in the case as you see in Zenium, then it's a pretty safe assumption to believe that there is quite a sophisticated marketing team behind it, okay. And again, back to what I was saying at the very beginning, the goal of all this exercise is always to try to have proof that some company really knows what they're doing, because you want to learn from those companies and not to the ones that are, you know, just randomly, you know, doing things, right? So when you encounter a company that has a big enough, especially if it's double digit is rare, but let's say double digit display advertising as source of traffic, and it's very fragmented, and it's not just GDN, but it's in this case Yahoo Advertising, Outbrain, Taboola, and others, chances are that this is a very sophisticated company. That means that you can learn quite a bit from them by trying to understand more how they do it in the display ads, and probably if they are, the other good thing is one thing lead to the other, which means that if they are very good at display, if they are sophisticated in display advertising, very strong chances that they are very, very good across the all paid ads. So that's probably they're very good about Google search, and they're probably also pretty sophisticated about social media ads, which again, it's the case, but you could have guessed that by just looking at this report. So that's it. And last quantitative report to look at is, well, actually, yeah, quantitative slash, this is more qualitative. Competitors. When you basically scroll down until the end, you see basically competitor and similar sites. As you can see, you know, they're pretty spot on. And by the way, this is this is not manually done, right? So this is all algorithmically. And it's good that, you know, you have, again, Tokopedia, Shopee, Lazada, the usual suspect, right? So basically, especially when you're looking at players overseas, right, from other countries that you just don't know, and you want to, in a very time efficient way, look at what are the other comparable players, right? To then do the same, basically reverse engineering exercise to another company, looking at the competitors and similar site from SimilarWeb is a pretty fast way to, again, to know other names that you want to do the same analysis on. So this is for basically there's a lot of stuff here that I share about how to basically have a, you know, high level quantitative approach by using SimilarWeb as a basically last or additional suggestion to build that you know, how to say that those not gut feelings, I don't know what the right word would be, but basically to build that you know, that expert view, to try to understand and to interpret the data. What I suggest you to do is you need to do this exercise with a lot of different websites, right? And ideally for some of them, maybe, you know, you have a friend that works there that has kind of visibility on the real data. So you can also compare the, you know, the SimilarWeb estimate with the real data, which, you know, which by the way is never 100% accurate, right? So, and you don't want it to be 100% accurate. The patterns is much more important. But basically doing this exercise for multitude of sites, and every time basically you're looking at a site, just click on the SimilarWeb plugin and look quickly about what the insight there. If you start doing that, you know, frequently, then very fast you will see patterns, and you will understand, oh, actually 2%, all the sites I've seen have 2% of display ads. This site has 12%. So you immediately spot that probably they're doing something, and then you dig deeper into that, right? So try to do that with multiple sites. it's so, and that's why I really recommend to download and install the Chromium, because it's just so fast, right? So, you know, every time you go on a site, bam, you click here, 5 seconds, you scroll here, 20 seconds, you get, you know, you get information, right? So that's for the first part. Before we jump into the qualitative approach, let me maybe take some question. There we go. Alvian, is it possible to reverse engineer competitors' budgeting plans, especially in the digital marketing budgeting plan? Good question. This is a bit tricky. What you could do, yeah, this is a bit tricky. So what SimilarWeb is very good at is putting things into relative terms, right, and to see patterns, right? So what you could do is by doing what we just showed, is to know where the company is spending most money, right? But to have the exact number, it's a bit harder with SimilarWeb. A tool that I recommend for doing that exercise, especially when it comes to paid search, it's called. There's quite a few. That do that, but the best one for me is SEMrush. So Ahref also do that, but SEMrush.com, there's a free trial. You can do that. You can use it, and it gives you some estimates. Not always that accurate, but it's better than nothing, especially for paid search. So that's a tool you might want to use to estimate the budget when it comes to search. In relative terms, the exercise we just did, it's good enough to have a clue about that. I'm gonna take the other one thumb question for now. At what point should we adapt and modify from At what point should we adapt and modify from competitors, and at what point should we execute something almost completely new? That's a very good question. That's a very, very good question, and I have a very strong opinion on that, right? Which is not necessarily the correct one. But my strong opinion is that, especially in less competitive markets like Indonesia, you need to get to a very, 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 high level of sophistication and execution quality before stop looking at what other players are doing and come up with something completely new, right? So you have a very, very long way to go to keep on basically leveraging that knowledge before you need to come up with something completely new. And that doesn't mean that you should apply exactly the same you should execute in the same way, far from it. But basically getting the insight and the high level basically strategy, or some specific basically tactics that a specific players is using for a channel. This is something you should always do, right? So you can always pick some information before you basically come up with something completely new. The rule is, unless you are in a hyper sophisticated and complex team, and there are really few in the region. We're talking like Shopee level, right? Where they have such a huge budget that they better be very sophisticated, because if not, they're leaving on the table a lot of money, right? But there's just a few players, so keep on doing that for a long time. So for example, in my case, I keep on doing that all the time for everything, right? So I don't have the arrogance in believing that I know it all, and so I shouldn't do that. So that should give you a good enough answer. Uzel, deep pages such as e-commerce official store product pages, which tool is best to use? Can SimilarWeb investigate these? Also, good question. No, but the answer is no. SimilarWeb is not good for this. The limitation of SimilarWeb is that it analyzes the data at a domain level. Okay, which is also, as we have seen in the case of Zenium, a bit add complexity when you're looking at regional players or international players that have a .com and then different subfolders for the different countries. So you cannot use SimilarWeb for a specific e-commerce store product page. But then my question would be, what would you try? What would you want to understand from a official store product page? So what are the insights you would want to get from it? Maybe if you can clarify just quickly.
Okay. So what I would like to understand is that which product from the store is actually fitting the market better. Like what features, what kind of strategy they are using, something like that.
So that is something that you should. Basically, is a very simple answer to that. You should infer from how it is sorted in the catalog of the store, or even the e-commerce. So all the e-commerce, right, the bigger ones, right, they have very, let's say, sophisticated algorithms, right, to rank the products when you search for anything, right, for any categories, in order to maximize the clicks and also the conversion. So always assume that the first product that you see, right, that is sorted the highest are the most popular ones. And that should also be a rule of thumb for the official store product page. So again, this is more like common sense, then you don't need any sophisticated tools, right?
Yes.
But, and that's also what we were doing. So for example, if you look at,
because basically for our own products, right, we can get the data from e-commerce platforms such as JDID. Those we can get, right, very granular data, which page they are accessing the most. But for competitors, that's kind of off limits, right?
No, that's I mean that would be the only that would be the main way I would look at the relative popularity. I know there might be there are other tools to kind of spy or reverse engineer that. I know they exist, but we are digressing a little bit, and I'm not too familiar either, so cannot be.
Okay. Noted.
Good. So moving forward, and I'll leave all the other questions for the end, for whatever time that we still have, right? And let's move to qualitative approach. So three different sources of qualitative insights that I suggest all of you to start looking at when sourcing for information to reverse engineering strategies. First one is look for case studies that are written by other marketers. And in those cases, typically those are very kind of sophisticated digital marketers, right? The second is look at LinkedIn profiles of people that are working in marketing roles for whatever company that you are researching, right? That's number two. And number three is look also at a job description of specific marketing roles for company that you are researching, right? And it's on the third one, one of the reasons why a lot of companies use recruiters and headhunters, especially for senior position. It's also because they don't want to give to the market the information that they are, if they're hiring, for example, a country manager, that they are expanding to that market, right? So the concept is somehow similar, right? But in this case, the information you get is not as strategic. So you can always find it in the job description. So let's look at the first one. So case studies written by other marketeers. So the first way to look at it is to start by looking at a known database. And what I mean by known is known from tonight onwards, those should become known to you. You should bookmark them. database of websites that are writing, in-depth marketing studies. So if you're lucky, and you need to be lucky, right? You might find on those a case study on either on specifically the business you are looking at, and that would be bingo, or simply in a comparable player to the industry you're looking, where you can still basically adopt quite a lot of learning. Here are 3 that I highly recommend, especially the first 2. The first one is simply amazing from my personal view. And by the way, if we can remove the annotation, I'm not sure how to clear. Oh, you too. Okay, managed. Very proud of that. But now I don't know how to remove this. Okay, yes. So Sumo. The growth studies of Sumo are nothing short of amazing. Not just to reverse engineer whatever player strategies, but for all of you without exception that want to learn more and go deeper into anything that you are doing, which is digital marketing related, this is super highly recommended readings. This is quite amazing. You see some big players, obviously they're all international or US player, right? And there's a lot of also, it's not just purely technical digital marketing. There's a lot of overall products and growth strategies, right? But they are great. Let me share with you, for example, the case of MailChimp. And you will see that, by the way, they also use themselves in that study. They use themselves also, similar web to that study, right? So you get additional insight on how to use similar web to do those studies. So for example, let's see. This for example is quite nice. So use this 3-part PPC funnel with a pre-sale landing page to warm up your cold paid traffic. So this is the level of inspiration you can get by reading those those in-depth case studies, right? And it is great again. And I'm sure that by starting reading those, you will realize fully how important it is to read those materials and try to leverage and get really inspiration from what other players, especially international players, are doing, and then adapting and adjusting it to the local market, because there's a huge amount of learning you can get from them. Another one that I love is Amazon is another good one. Let's say Intercom. There was a few tips that were great. Let me quickly share. So see if you recognize this is similar web, right? That I love, for example. This is something that I've recommended to a few software companies that have a lot of competition, and I got inspiration from here. Basically, the tip is steal your competitors' traffic with alternative landing pages, and what that means is they basically build landing page, right, for every competitor that they have. So when you search for example, for Olark, right, which is a competitor of Intercom, you land on that super customized, super tailored landing page that tells you looking for an alternative to Olark, right? And they tell you what is not good about them, and then they tell you what is good about Intercom. And this is a great, basically, this is a great strategy. So this is what Drift, which is another competitor, is doing, right? Because then players starting to copy each other's strategy once they saw the first one doing that. So Drift, which is a competitor of Intercom, also started doing that, right? And this is brilliant, right? So again, other example, I'm digressing a little bit, of basically how those growth studies and Sumo's one are the very best ones. We will share those links basically on Slack and on Zoom. The problem about those is that they have limited, right? So it's not that they're producing one of those this case every day, and they're not 1,000 of those. So the database is not that big, but nonetheless very very interesting. The second, more say scalable strategy, if you're looking for a player, is to basically Google for it. So an example that I often mention, because that's something that I did in reality, is I wanted to look at take some inspiration in terms of marketing strategies for a D2C brand. D2C are direct to consumer brands, so brands that sell directly online, a product that typically in the past was sold via distributors, right? So you can start basically what I started, right? The D2C field was a field that I wasn't very familiar with. So, one assumption that I had is probably, fastest growing company, right, are more likely to have figure out something that others haven't from a growth and marketing perspective. It's not always the case, right? Sometimes it's just the product is just amazing and that drives the growth, right? And Slack is one of this example, right? But chances are, all conditions equal, is that if you look for fastest growing, whatever you're searching for, and you start reverse engineer on that top players, the fastest one, chances are that they're doing something right that you want to copy, right? Or you want to take inspiration from. So when I look for fastest growing D2C brands, I landed on a few of them. One of them, which seemed to me very interesting, was Casper. For the ones of you that don't know what Casper is Casper is a direct to consumer online mattress brand that went. Oops, that's nice. But I'm not in the UK, I'm in the US. Okay. So they IPO'd a few months back. They're very good brand. They grew extremely aggressively, and they did a lot of basically marketing, right? So I landed on Casper that you see here. And then I wanted to start to understand what is it that they did, right? So something you can search, and you can really copy paste that, and obviously use permutation of that, is to Google growth marketing strategy case study of whatever website or brand you're searching for. So in this case was Casper, and then you land on this, right? So it goes without saying. So obviously, is the bigger the brand is, and the higher the chance that you will land on those basically experts deconstructing studies of the brand, right? And that is the case, especially if you're looking for basically US brands, right? It's very hard to find. It's almost impossible to find that quality of results for Indonesia brands, because basically no one write about it, right? So that's why this you should do that mainly to take inspiration from international markets and then adjust to the local market. So as you can see, right, by searching that, you see already quite a few interesting results. My my recommendation is that in order to find value, right, those case studies need to be in depth. And what in depth means is just a rule of thumb is how long they are, right? So if the article is not that long, chances are you're not gonna learn a lot, right? There's a huge correlation between how long is the article and how in depth and how insightful it is. That's the first criteria. And the second is that you want to look for case studies that are tactical, right? That really give you specific execution insights, not just high-level strategy that says, Casper built an amazing brand because they advertise a lot on TVs, and they built that brand that resonate a lot with millennials, and that nice, all nice to hear that, but this is just high level strategy. Is not actionable, right? There's nothing I can take out of that to implement, especially if I'm not as big as a brand. So you want to look for tactical advice. So a few examples, right? Because this is something, you know, you need to try with different articles to find the ones that really is a gem, right? So you need to, so that's why you need to develop a ability to spot almost immediately what are the good articles where you can learn and what are the not so good, because you don't want to read every single one of them, because it's just too long, right? So I open one case, which is the medium one here, and I see, so already I can tell you 5 minutes read is not good enough, right? I can already tell you based on that. I scroll very fast. If I don't see graph with numbers, for example, and I don't see a lot of screenshot about strategies, here is just about basically their whole promotion and stuff, I can already tell you that there's nothing I can learn from it, right? So strategies, they tell me in 3 paragraphs about the strategies. There's no way I can learn something very insightful with just three paragraphs or something, right? So that, if I were to do it, I wouldn't even read that, because I know after just looking at the length of the article and just the images, right, that this is not good enough, right? So then I will look at others. So this, let's see this. I will open multiple tabs. Then I would look this. And that's something that already is already very interesting. Why? Because it's specific on content marketing, right? And as I said, remember, it's much more valuable to get in-depth tactical advice on one specific channel than having some high-level blah 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 strategy, right? So if there's a study that specifically target a channel, in this case content marketing, chances are that it could be good, right? So compare, for example, this, right? 4 minutes, you see those images with, for example, what we see here. So first of all, if I scroll already, I see that this is super long, right? So I immediately get interested about that. Then, I look at the images and I immediately see that, okay, so this is Ahrefs, I know, right? So they are really using basically data and really reverse engineering stuff. I see here. Then what else? This is Ahrefs again. Then this is a similar web, right? And again, I'm not expecting you guys to be able to spot that at the speed at which I am doing it, because obviously I did that many times. But this is basically what you should look at, right? So you should look for graph, you should look for numbers, you should look for length. That's are all indicators that probably you can learn something from it, right? So that's one very good case. Another good case, the one that I mentioned here. And same here. If you want to be even faster, right? So you don't need to get to that level of speed. But my case, when I look at the scroll bar on the right, I see that it's very small. So it means that it's very long. So I immediately know that this is probably a good enough article, right? And then especially when there's a table of content like this, again, chances are it's pretty good. Again, see, similar web, data everywhere. I love this. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of, okay, this is from, what is it? From another, this is from another tool. So yeah, a lot you can learn. So I love this screenshot where people annotate stuff. That's exactly what you want to learn. Okay, so this is a case for you should always try to do that. It doesn't work for the local market, so look at that for comparable in other markets, mainly in the US. But chances are, again, that you always have a comparable in the US to that you want to look at for the local markets. Very important to Google the right things, right? So this, again, you can copy paste it and just do different permutation of that, but this could give you very good, should give you very good results. It's field tested, as they say. Second qualitative approach, look at LinkedIn profiles of people that are working for that company that you're researching in specific marketing roles. So what you want to get out of it are a few things. So the first thing is popularity of certain roles. So if you see that out of 50 people that work in marketing for a company, they have, I don't know, 10 is a bit unrealistic, but 6 people that work for CRM, you can bet that this company has CRM as one of the most important channel, right? If they have out of 80 people, 60 people that write content, then you're pretty sure that SEO for them is a pretty important channel. Again, this is something where you need to spend some you need to do a lot of testing, and you need to spend some time in doing that for multiple companies, because if you're doing it for the first time, it's not as easy, especially for most of you that are yet to start working in a marketing team, to know whether is a ratio of 1 to is 2 CRM for a team of 50 marketeers. Does that mean that CRM is important, or does it mean that it's not that important? So these are all things, calibration that you will gain with experience, right? But again, the sooner you start doing that, and the more you can you can get there. Second learning you want to get is learn about what each person is specifically responsible for in each channel they are doing. So you need to be lucky on that, or better, you don't need to be lucky. You need to look at multiple profiles, because most people won't write on their LinkedIn, won't give all the specific explanation of exactly what they're doing. But if you land on someone, and I'll share a couple of cases that do, then you get huge information. This is, by the way, this is applicable not just for marketing. I'm personally doing that for everything, which has to do with, can be applicable to product, it can be applicable to business, it can be applicable to everything. So learn from the description that people use on their LinkedIn about how that company is or was structuring any functions of their company. The third thing, which is basically what I was saying before, this is mainly for people that are thinking of basically building that have a more senior role, or you are a business owner. By looking at those ratio in terms of how many people are working on what in those companies, you can have some sense on what should be the type of people I should also hire for my own company, right? And I recommend you do this not just for local players. Actually do it even more for international players, right? So example of how to do that. I'll take as an example Instacart, which is basically the equivalent of Happy Fresh in the US, or better, Happy Fresh is the equivalent of Instacart in Southeast Asia and Indonesia. So if we look at LinkedIn, let me show you. I don't know if Yaya is here or not. We have one alumni that worked actually for Happy Fresh. So the way you should do it, start by searching the company, right, that you are looking for. So Instacart in this case. Then click on the number of employees, and obviously the bigger the company and the more information you can you can get, right? I don't know why is this. Well, let's just remove it. Not a big deal. And then search for marketing. Okay, so you get here basically a list of people that are somehow related to marketing. I mean, based on how the search algorithm of LinkedIn works, and as a common sense also dictates, the first result you will see are people that are currently at Instacart and have marketing in their title, right? And then what you should do is start basically, start opening up their profile, and look for the ones that have something interesting, that have written something interesting. This is a few cases that I found that now are no longer at Instacart, but just to show you how I found them, right? And this guy will wonder why someone from Indonesia keep on looking at his profile. So here you can see, and especially typically people that have left the company, they tend to disclose a bit more, sorry, about exactly what they were doing, right? So here, online partnership, shopper marketing and referrals. So interesting, for example, something that I could get out of that, interesting that, they were using, podcasts as advertising. This is a pretty new advertising channel. The fact that they were doing that is pretty, it's pretty interesting. Shopper marketing and referrals, that's something interesting that is mentioning here. So they were specifically having people or sub teams that were focused on the shopper marketing and referrals, which in the case of Instacart, which is the case of HappyFresh, are the people that are basically buying the groceries for you, right? So this is one example. Another example is this other guy that I found, as it was the senior product manager of SEO at Instacart. And there's a couple of things that I could guess from those two simple lines, right? The first one is that SEO, as for quite a few companies, is a team and is a function that falls under product, not under marketing, right? That's the case for many companies. So, if I'm in a similar business as HappyFresh, for example, as Instacart, and I'm a manager, it's kind of a good insight. Say, okay, actually Instacart put SEO on the product. That's good insight to maybe do the same for me, right? And the second thing is, what I read here is main area of focus has been technical cleanup to improve crawling and indexing of multi-million page sites. So what I get from that is that for Instacart, not surprisingly, knowing a bit the business, the long tail is very important in their overall SEO strategy. So they have millions and millions of pages indexed, which are basically all the single products, right? All the grocery products, where they probably get a lot of traffic. Because if the guy that was the senior PM SEO says in just 2 lines that the main area of focus was to the technical cleanup to improve the crawling and indexing, that probably means that for a site like Instacart, that has been one of the most important SEO priority. And again, this is something you can learn from it. And the next step is to actually reach out to that person, right? So especially if you're not competing with that person in the same market, you can then have a chat with that person, which is good for your networking, but is also good to get additional insight. And typically people are quite, unless they're super senior, they're quite keen to share their know-how. Last qualitative source to look for information: job description for marketing roles of the company you are researching. Couple of things you can extract here. A is popularity of certain roles. So if there's a lot of, I'll show you in the next slide what I mean by that. And also understand from the job description the focus that the company either had in the past or will have in the future because they're hiring for that position. So a couple of examples using the same Instacart here. Let me put the full screen. So that was a couple of months ago, right? What you can get out of that is, well, they were definitely focusing on CRM, right? That's something that they wanted to focus on because you see there were like 3 openings for CRM out of, I don't know how many openings there were in marketing, but it's pretty telling that the 3 roles were CRM, right? So that's what I mean by the base of the popularity of the jobs for a specific channel. You can infer that channel either was poorly managed before, so that's why now you have to compensate for that, or just is already a big channel for them and they need to keep on hiring. In either case, it means that it's a channel that is important enough. So this is an example that the second thing I was mentioning here, to understand from the job description the focus of basically the strategy, right? So this is a pet search marketing manager role, right? And what I found very interesting in this, for example, is drive shopper acquisition through paid search. So what I can immediately infer from that, right, is that they are using, so Instacart is using paid search to basically acquire shopper, not only, or maybe not at all, to acquire buyers. So shopper, remember what I mentioned before, are the people that basically are doing the groceries once a buyer make their order, right? And you know, it's a marketplace business where you need to have both buyers, but you also need to have those shoppers, right, to deliver. So basically, they're doing paid acquisition, in this case specifically paid search, to acquire those shoppers, right? So it's pretty interesting that they say that, because I might not have thought of using paid search for acquiring also that part of that type of customers of the business, which are the shoppers. Look also look also at not only at future, so don't just look at the career page, which are the existing job search. What I always do is also I Google past jobs, right? And you land on LinkedIn. Some of them are expired, but you can get good good inspiration from what they were doing before. And in most cases, that also means they were looking for that person. So that means that since they found it, maybe already some of what they claim that was necessary in the job description is already being implemented, right? So that give you additional additional insights on what has been done on that specific field. So how to look for it? Just search for the name of the company, job role that you're interested, and then add either the keyword careers or jobs. Oops, wait, that was a bit abrupt. So that concludes also the qualitative parts. This is not this is not everything, right? So you can really be creative about how you go, how you do this, and what what is very, very addicting is that when you start doing that, right, so one thing lead to the other, right? It's kind of a detective job, right? So, and especially if you're a curious person, you then get one insight, and one insight get to another company, and that other company lead you to a job description, and then you do this, you do that. So and then you put all the all the pieces together of the puzzle together, and that gives you a good enough understanding of how they do things. It comes with experience. So if you don't practice doing that, you won't be able to immediately spot those patterns, right? But it's not rocket science. So you have, I hope, with tonight a good framework to look at what is possible. So I really urge you to go and start doing that basically every day. One word of caution in my case, and that happened a lot in the past, it's very addicting. So you might want to time yourself when you do that, because you might end up spending hours and hours and falling into the rabbit hole of searching what others are doing. And you end your day and you realize that you actually spend the whole day just doing that, right? So you might want to be careful about this. Good. Questions? Should I just go? Julian, Raisa, should I go on Slido or?
Yeah. Just keep. I guess we'll go through the questions in Slido. Once it's done, we could kind of have all you guys raise your hands if you have any questions.
Okay. So where should I look for if I want to learn more about reverse engineering and growth hacking? So my recommendation is just read all the case studies that I share here, right? So those three databases. Let me share again. I don't know if they've already been shared. If not, I will share it now. Yeah. So just read that. So the Sumo one, they are very, very long, right? So it will take a lot of time for you, not just to read, but you have to digest it. You have to then understand when they say something, then try to see in reality for that specific business, how it really works. That will take a lot of time, but that's, to me, that's the best way to become better at it and to really start having that as part of your routine. So that is by far the best way to learn. Any high-profile business line which are outliers of the empirical. Whoa, and this is a headache. This question. Any high-profile business line which are outliers of the empirical channel percentage mentioned on slide 18. So let's go to slide 18. Yeah, well, so first of all, outliers, they're always outliers. That's why I'm saying that this is a rule of thumb that from my experience is actionable, right? But don't apply it in a too strictly. I'm giving you those numbers, right? Because if you're starting from scratch, I think it's easier to start from having kind of those numbers in mind rather than having to figure out everything from zero. But as you start doing that more and more, you should be the one coming up with your own kind of range and numbers, right? So this, and the other thing is that the tool is not perfect, right? So there are cases that are basically completely wrong, right? So they're always outlier in that regards as well, right? So that's any hype on terms of high profile. I don't know them all by heart, right? So for as long as I love doing this, and I used to do that a lot. That's an interesting exercise you might want to do if you then have the real numbers and the real strategies to kind of compare. Adinda, do we need a few tools to deepen our research or reverse engineering? If you already use SimilarWeb, do you think we will need some supplementary tools like Ahref? Very good question. So SimilarWeb is the best tool to have that high-level multi-channel view. It's not the best tool to look at any of those channel in specific. When it comes to SEO, the best tools is Ahref by far, my experience. When it comes to paid ads, search ads, and display ads, it's SEMrush. There's a couple of competitors that are very similar, but SEMrush is very good. There's another one that is called moat.com, which is actually quite amazing. The first time you learn about it, where you can basically reverse engineer all the display ads. If you guys can share it on basically on Slack and Zoom, so that for everyone to know. But for example, if you do that, Casper, and ta-da, you look. What you see is boom, all the creatives that they're using. This is a huge amount of information that you get from in just 2 clicks, and you can do that with all the brands in the world. So this is very good for getting inspiration for display ads. Something even more powerful ads that has been made available. Not sure if Theo shared that with you guys, so that might be redundant. Definitely not redundant with batch 4, but basically Facebook, because of all the political scandals about who is doing which ads, basically what they did is they made public that database where basically you can search for any brand in the world and you can see their basically their advertising on the creative on Facebook, right? So if we look at Lazada Indonesia, you see, oh, what? See? Wait. How come? Filter by all. Not sure why I'm stuck here. Let's do the following.
Filter all ads. So click on the all ads. From Nito and Alfian and Ben.
All ads.
Yeah, they're getting better than you, man.
Of course they should. I would be worried if that wasn't the case. So so here you can see like all the all the ads. You can filter by platform, Facebook, Instagram, by last days, last 7 days, etc., etc. So that's another for social media ads. Facebook itself give you that huge amount of information. So that's the best way to look for it. For display ads, mode.com in terms of creative. For both search and display ads in terms also of like keywords bidding, in terms of strategy and budget, SEMrush is the best one. And for SEO, Ahref is the best one. Good, so that covers the Slido questions. Other question, guys, Julian, let me know which question should I answer and how to go about it.
Hey guys, as usual, please raise your hand on Zoom if you want to ask a question. First come, first serve. So we'll keep going only if you ask questions. If not, it's 8:36. We might end it soon if there's no questions. So I'll give you a minute to decide whether or not you want to ask Matteo something. Okay, so
I take the raise hand or no? I don't see.
Yeah, no raised hands. Oh, there you go, Alfian. Alfian, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hello, Matteo.
Hey, Alvin.
Can you suggest some tools for stalking engagement rate for social media organic?
For engagement rate?
Yeah, like comment, save post maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of tools actually that to different degrees give you those numbers. There might be some among you that actually might know better than me. I've used a few in the past, but I don't want to give some wrong answers. Maybe if someone has any experience in using that and want to directly reply to Albion, please do so. I think we are. What is it?
I think Babeth, go ahead, unmute yourself and share.
Social baker. We are social or social bakers. Social bakers. I think
social bakers, yeah. Social bakers.
Social bakers, yeah. They're pretty well known. As in?
Who is that?
So social, yeah, social bakers is a pretty good one. To be honest with you, I have no idea about the pricing. Well, it's there, so you can see. So there's quite a few. Yeah, I know there's quite a few different pricing. What is important is, again, remember what I said at the beginning. Understand how they get their data, right? So don't just take what they say at face value. Try to understand how is it possible that they get this data, because the moment you realize how it is possible, then it's easier to, you can trust more or less that information, right? So Google up social bakers and look at social bakers also comparable, and you will see, you will find quite a few. So the answer is yes, there are.
Okay, thank you, and thank you guys for suggest in chat box.
Yep, for those of you that haven't read it, it includes Keyhole from Babeth, Social Bakers, Hootsuite, Social Buzz.
Yeah, Hootsuite, definitely, yeah.
Hootsuite, yeah. So there's a lot of tools out there. Yeah. And I think one of the really interesting, before we go to your question, Ito, one of the really interesting a perspective that you can take to what Matteo has shared. Some of it is just really common sense stuff. Some of it's really super simple. Some of it's actually, maybe we wouldn't have thought about it if Matteo didn't share. But I think the point that brings home all of these things together is your mindset and your ability to kind of look at a tool and think creatively, how can I use this for my personal goals, for my research goals? So it's really about, playing around with new tools, seeing what the features are, and then creatively thinking how can you use all these tools in the future to help you with your research, to help you with, whatever it is that you want to achieve. So I think that's the key though. And it's a mindset that you bring to everything that you do. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I agree. I agree. Just one last word, Razi, to add on that. I agree 100%, and you know very well that also you would be surprised that also people that are quite I am very surprised, quite experienced, right? Most people just don't have that mindset of, again, of always starting by looking at what other people have already figured out and learn from there rather than starting from scratch, right? And again, I'm happy that most people don't do that, because that gives competitive advantage to whoever does it. But again, that's why it's really a mindset, right? And it's not about copying. Oh my God, it's not ethical. There's nothing to do with that, right? So just start from where someone ends and leverage and adjust and adapt. Just always do that. And for me, this is not just about digital marketing, but it's about everything that you're building. Never reinvent the wheel and never start from scratch.
Yep. Good point. Nito, do you have a question?
Yep. So I think Leo showed a screenshot from a tool that he didn't mention specifically. I can't remember which slide, but I think it was BuzzSumo, but I'm not sure if you have used that. And do you know what do you usually use it for? I mean, I just heard
Yeah.
it, but never really.
Yeah, good catch. Yeah, it was BuzzSumo. Actually, let me give you that beautiful answer, which is keep your question for next week for content marketing, because this is something that Andrew at iPrice is using or has been using quite a bit, specifically for content marketing. So ask this question next week. You're gonna be able to get a better answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, guys, last question. Next person to raise their hand gets to ask a question. Otherwise, in 30 seconds, I will end the session.
This slide is good now.
Yeah, I like how you used yellow. Okay, guys, I guess there's no more questions. From me, I guess, this has been this is a very important topic. If you don't get all of the details that Matteo shared, we can easily kind of share with you the deck and you can kind of review it, click all the links, etc. I think if you take nothing away from today except one thing, it's the fact that this is not rocket science. A lot of it is really common sense, and a lot of it also is based on your experience. So how do you improve your ability to kind of growth hack and, I would say, steal ideas from other people starts with your mindset in how you approach your day-to-day life, right? Not just in online marketing, but also everything else. And I think the main point here, there's two really big points that I want to share based on what Matteo has, kind of presented. Number one, it's the fact that, there's really nothing new in the world, right? And so the best way to kind of speed up your growth and learning, especially in an age where you have access to so much information, is to start from what other people have accomplished and done. And if you start from there, it accelerates your learning and your growth. And therefore, you can reach what took other people longer to reach, right? You can get there much faster because somebody has gone through that path. So there's an infinite amount of things that you can kind of study, that you pick up from other people. The second point, and I think this is very specific to Indonesia, is the fact that when it comes to a lot of things, right? Especially when it comes to digital marketing, we're a little bit behind, if not a lot behind, from some of the more advanced nations and some of the more advanced countries where they've been doing this a lot longer than we have, okay? And they're much farther along. And what that means is that there's really almost no excuse for us not to learn from more advanced economies, from more advanced companies, from more advanced marketing teams all around the world that have been doing this for much longer. It's not when we not copy, but when we learn from someone, it doesn't mean that they're smarter than us. It just means that they've had the privilege, resources, experience, time, and whatever it is to kind of be ahead of you. And when it comes to Indonesia, unfortunately, we are a little bit behind. And so it doesn't make sense for us to figure out things from scratch the way that others in the past have figured it out from scratch. It makes sense for us to accelerate our growth. And this is actually a competitive advantage for most of you guys to kind of start with your mindset, everything that you do. And this is something that me personally, if I can share a personal story, you know, it's something that working with Matteo over the last few months has made me a little bit more, I mean, I've always kind of done it to a certain extent, but I think Matteo is somewhat of an extreme where the first question, if you have any sort of idea, the first question that he always asks is, has someone done that before, right? Is there an example? Is there a comparable? And can we learn from someone else and build really quickly and then refine as we go? Okay, and you can apply this to not just digital marketing. I apply it to my approach to product management and developing products. I apply it to, you know, a lot of things when it comes to even your personal situations. So it's really a mindset, and it's really something that you have to develop. For those of you that have finished the course, this is something that you can continue to develop in your workplace while you complete for batch 3, while you complete the next few weeks. And for batch 4, it's a mindset that you can start developing now so that it means a lot more when you start studying some of the things that you will be studying in batch 4. So that's it from me. Matteo, do you have anything that you want to share as a closing statement?
No, you beautifully put. No, I think you said it all. Always happy to share that. I hope that you guys got some, you know, some insight and could help, especially to to adjust the mindset, right? To start doing that as a daily routine. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And I'll talk to most of you very soon.
Well, I've learned from one of the best every day, man.
Bye,
Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much.
Have a good one. See you guys.